the home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
Views,
there's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
Sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuga Online, your inspiration radio station.
Hi there, and welcome to Healthcare Hour with Colleen QVIST. Thanks so much for all your messages this past week. I am delighted to hear that you are practicing gratitude, that you are remembering to reach out to loved ones, and that you are enjoying your lives as much as possible, you being the light in a lot of darkness in the world. As you know, Healthcare Hour with me is all about healthcare professionals. It's about us understanding that healthcare professionals are people. They get tired, they get sad, they get hungry. They also have families who they often don't see. It's also about us improving the relationship between the healthcare professional and the patient, and the healthcare professional and the patient's family, and also for us as the public to have autonomy, to have understandings of rules and regulations and laws, but also of our own bodies, and to understand that as owners of our own bodies, the person who understands them the most is you. So my guest after the break, we're going to be meeting, she's Sonja Smith. Many of you will know her as the founder and MD of Sonja Smith Funeral Homes, and we're going to be talking to her after the break.
How do you know the life of personal coach you're about to work with is who they say they are? How do you know if they can do the job? At the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology, we can tell you. So, before you share your secrets and spend your money, check with us first. Visit www.abccccp.com or call us on 012-751-7608. The ABCCP, the professional body for coaches.
Welcome back. You're listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen QVIST. My guest today is Sonja Smith. So Sonja, hello.
Hi, Colleen.
Thank you very much for joining us. Yes, so you are the founder and MD of Sonja Smith Funeral Group, which you started in 2006. And I know that you have won many accolades because of your approach to death and dying. But also you've been very much in the news recently, well, not as much in the news as you should have been, but about your achievement to date where you have a historic breakthrough, where you challenged the Constitution of South Africa with regards to the rights of parents in the case of pregnancy loss.
Yes, Colleen, it's a matter very close to my heart. So thank you for the opportunity to speak about this today.
Yes. Okay, so on this show, before we are causes and before we passions, we're also people. So tell us about Sonja growing up. Where did funerals come in as a career?
Sure. Sonja is currently happily married for the second time. I'm a true believer in second chances. I've got 3 children and 4 grandchildren whom I absolutely adore. I've had a passion for babies for a very, very long time, being in the death care industry for 25 years plus. I grew up in Nelspruit. I was the eldest of 2 children. I have a sister who's also in the funeral industry with me. And yes, I went into corporate after school, became a bank manager, but there was always something missing. Climbing the corporate ladder at a very young age, I just felt worthless. I thought there was something more than just working, going home, having a salary. I wanted to really make a difference in people's lives. So in 1997, I watched a TV program where the late Derek Watt, who I was so privileged to meet, actually had a show about what we knew then as a government mortuary. And I can remember I was fascinated by this television program, thinking that nobody knows what's going on at funeral homes. And it was, I know it was a calling. And I went to a funeral home and I said, please show me. I want to know what happens behind what I perceived as closed curtains. So I talked to the lady in charge at the time, and she explained to me how she goes out at all hours, be there for the person who in the very darkest hour when they lost someone. I said, I want to see what it looks like in a mortuary. So I made an appointment. I went to their facilities, and I can to this day remember how I opened what looks like a filing cabinet in the movies, which was their cold storage facility. I pulled open the drawer, and there was this very elderly lady, very old, with her purple rinse, her purple gown, and her hands on her chest, which was almost transparent. And I can remember I just went like this, and I knew this is what I have to do. So, yeah, through the University of Life, I ended up working for some of the bigger companies in the funeral industry, and I just had this passion to do things my way. I didn't want to ask permission if I wanted to do something. And I think I managed to up the standards in the industry by bringing in a bit of color and saying, but it's not just black and white and gray. There are ways how to make this really memorable for people. I went overseas, I attended many funeral exhibitions, and I brought to South Africa some of the international concepts, which to this day I'm very proud of. For example, evening funerals, living funerals. I feel very passionate about living funerals for people who are terminally ill, who can actually have the opportunity to say their goodbyes while they are alive.
Yes. Oh, I think we need a whole other show. Yes. It's also fascinating how life calls us, you know, the passion and the meaning and the purpose, where it's something, you know, sitting in matric, you wouldn't have said, oh, you know what I'm going to do one day, you know, like let's write on your school magazine about, yay, guess what you're going to be, you know. It's something that doesn't like feature at all. But thank you very much for actually answering the call of saying that there was something missing and you went to find it. I think at this point we also need to say that the show does have a trigger warning. It can bring up lots of emotions for you. It might bring up lots of, and I think even when you were talking about opening the filing cabinet in the morgue, can also bring up lots of feelings for people who've done that, who've had to do that. And so also we are going to be talking about miscarriage, and we are going to be talking about stillbirth. So if you would prefer not to listen, we understand. But I would also like to encourage you as part of your healing. Sonja is doing lots of work to be able to improve and increase the rights of parents whose children are born asleep. Okay, so, all right, so tell us, okay, so let's look at like stillbirth miscarriage. A woman is pregnant for 40 weeks. And then you would normally have a normal birth at 40 weeks or somewhere along the line, 38 weeks when she has a Caesar. What happens with stillbirth or miscarriage?
When you lose a baby before the gestational age of 26 weeks, it is regarded as a miscarriage. And up to this day, for 50 years plus, the law was misinterpreted that in the case of a miscarriage, you have no right to elect to bury the fetus. It has to be incinerated as medical waste. And after 26 weeks of gestation, you are obliged to have a final disposition of the little body, whether it's a cremation or a burial. After 26 weeks, you have to. So this is the gray area. If you look at the termination laws, up to 20 weeks, you may elect to terminate for social and economical reasons. You may not be able to afford the little one to bringing up, and you may choose to terminate. But After 20 weeks, then it becomes a little bit more complicated because it's almost like they validate that this is existence of a life. So then for medical reasons only may you terminate. But 40 weeks, even if it's for medical reasons.
So Sonja, you're saying then that at less than 26 weeks, the fetus is classed as medical waste and is disposed of as such. But after 26 weeks, you get a death certificate and you then obliged to do something with the body, depending on what it is that you choose to do.
It's correct. So this is what, yes.
So a termination of pregnancy where you voluntarily terminate is then up to 20 weeks.
This is my concern because, in other words, from 20 weeks and later, you may not opt to voluntarily terminate. So in other words, in my mind, it's about validation of a life.
Yes.
Why?
So I get that it's almost like there's two different rules then, and we've also got somewhere between 20 and 26 weeks. We've got no man's land.
Correct. That's the gray area. So you are absolutely at the mercy of the medical professional in front of you. It depends. Somebody might be very sympathetic and say, we understand, we will allow you to take hold of the little body by signing an affidavit to say it's like an appendix that I'm taking home. Otherwise.
Okay. So what you're then seeing is that it's okay. So if we take termination out of this, because often termination is a choice. It's a choice because it's the only choice that a person feels like they can have. So let's take termination out of it. If a woman is pregnant and at some point along the way she miscarries, so that is before 26 weeks. So if her baby is still born after 26 weeks, up until 40, obviously, it's then classed as a death.
In terms of the Births and Deaths Registrations Act, yes. So this is the problem at the moment. In order to elect to bury, which we have now been through the Constitutional Court, who said that the only prohibition might be a municipal bylaw, but doctors and nursing professionals are not aware of this. So in other words, there is no death certificate, there is no burial order, there is no notice of death. So the paperwork, in order for you to elect to bury, does not correspond with
there is no paperwork
that we have.
Yeah. Okay, so on that sad note, let's go for a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the bond between the mother and the unborn child. But let's go for a break.
The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is a professional development center for professionals who aim to improve their professional standing. This means that the learning programs we run are more than just academic programs. They are work-based programs that focus on leveraging your current experience as a professional to build your overall profile. A year down the line, the Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is developing into a preferred center for professional development in Pretoria, with 8 professional development faculties including accounting, teaching, entrepreneurship, as well as IT and many more. For more information, go to acwbl.org or dial +27 12 751 7608. The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning, where work is learning.
Welcome back. You're listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen QVIST. My guest today is Sonja Smith. She is the founder and CEO of Sonja Smith Funeral Group. To say as well that there is a trigger warning on our show today because we are talking about miscarriage and stillbirth. And also the trauma experienced by a mommy and daddy and other family members when a baby is not carried to term. So Sonja, tell us about the the bond between some moms and their babies?
I think it starts with a thought. We want to have a baby. So there's this fantasy, we're going to have a baby. There's a pregnancy test, which is positive, and all the emotions that go along with that. There's the preparation of a baby room. There's a heartbeat. And there's a stork tea where we all get together and we celebrate the arrival of a newborn soon. And we even know whether it's a boy or a girl. We can see the features on the 4D or the 3D. And then the most tragic thing happens where there's also the reaction of the other children. I've had a very sad case where the children they had an appointment with the gynae and they took the other 4 children with the parents to show the heartbeat and to show the features on the sonar. And the moment the mother walked into the surgery, the doctor's rooms, and she was lying, preparing the children, suddenly there was no heartbeat. And can you imagine the reaction of the children at that stage? They were so excited to be able to see and hear, and then all of a sudden, now we have to arrange a funeral.
Yeah.
So I do strongly believe that there is a bond between a mother and an unborn, and even between the father, who was able to listen and feel the baby kicking.
And also, you know, the preparation and the planning and the yay, you know, we're going to have, and the future dreams, and, oh, we're going to have a little girl, a little boy, you know, and we also need to know, yes, dads are also involved in this. They're also part of, and that miscarriage is doesn't only affect women.
That's true.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah. So what happens then? So if the mom has then gone, she's in hospital and she ends up miscarrying, does she, you know, you must have gone, you know, as a funeral person, you must have obviously gone there where you go to fetch the body. Talk us through that process.
That is one of the most difficult things to do, is to walk into a maternity ward where everybody is happy, even the nursing professionals. We do a lot of education and training in hospital wards because they have to switch from the one mode to the other. There's this happiness, there are grandparents and happy parents, and then suddenly something goes wrong. And then they have to put on the other hat of compassion and care and empathy. And it's not that easy being a nursing professional to be able to do that.
Yes.
So I think one of the things that a message that I managed to bring across is the hamper, you know, the samples, the bags, the goodie bags that parents normally get when they book their bed, or they walk out of hospital with that goodie bag and all the samples of the medical companies. I made quite a big story out of it, saying to hospital groups, but what do you do for bereaved parents? I mean, you can't give them
walk out with nothing. Yeah.
They go home with empty arms. So one of the big groups managed to introduce the healing hampers. I actually made a sample and I dropped it off at the hospital. So we've got these hope boxes and like a journal, a pen, a teddy, CD about grief that
Please
they can
mention the name of the group, because I think we need to highlight groups that are doing things properly.
It was Netcare.
Netcare. Okay, so a shout out to Netcare for actually realizing that we can have a healing hamper.
They've also changed their policy. I know other hospitals followed suit, but they do now give parents the option to elect to take the little fetus with them on the placenta form.
Okay. All right. So what we're seeing then is so much trauma. You know, I know that you've got a different approach, because you've said that because nursing staff are seeing this little fetus as being medical waste. Medical waste goes in a red plastic bag. And so it's almost, what has your approach been in terms of collecting a fetus?
I would go in with my little carry cot and I would give, sorry, I would give the parents ample time to hold the baby, to say their goodbyes. I know it's very, very emotional. I don't think it's something that you can imagine if you haven't been through it yourself. So in the past, in the beginning, I would go in and I would take the baby from the mother who would not willingly offer the baby to me because I'm the intruder. I'm the one who have to take the baby away to a funeral
Yes.
party. And then through the years, I've learned a technique which made it a little bit softer. I would go in and I put my carry cot on the bed, and then I would ask the father of the baby, when he's ready, to please put the baby in my carry cot with my blanket. So he would then hand over the baby, as opposed to me tearing the baby away from the mother's arms. The other thing I wanted to mention was, we don't often think about this, but when you get home with empty arms, you have to dismantle the baby room. What do you do with the gifts that you received at the stalk party? And then the lactation. People don't think of this, but that's one of the consequences. Your body does not know that the baby is dead. So the lactation process kicks in automatically after a day or two.
Yeah. Okay, so for people who don't understand lactation, we're talking about breastfeeding. Your body is ready to feed your baby, except, of course, your baby is passed away. As we can see, heavy topics, but topics that need to be spoken about, subjects that need to be brought out into the open so that we can know. So your whole court case has been that a parent is allowed to decide whether they take home what they do with the body of the fetus.
Yes, I feel if you have the choice to terminate, then why don't you have the choice to do something in order for you to heal? Why do you not have the option to have a little grave to go back to, or to have some ashes in a small jewelry box on your dressing table? Why is that? Why are you deprived of that?
Yeah. And also, you know, like the inhumanity of, for you, it's been hope and joy and life, and this is going to be a child or another child of ours, much loved, all waited for by grandparents and parents and friends and other children. And then it's almost like, no, the baby's not medical waste. It's a body, it's a human. Even if outside of the body, this little one wouldn't survive. It's still a human.
I think what got to me was the fact that there's a timeline. So 26 weeks you have to bury or cremate, but
Yes.
one
Then
day
suddenly
earlier,
this is a human. Yes.
25 weeks and 6 days, it's medical waste. How?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so it really should be a choice, and also to be given the choice to the parent as to say, you know, what would you like to do? And also, you know, in your talk, I could hear that we need time, that it's not like rushing now, collect a little body and off you go. Come on now, I'm on the clock. I've got 2 minutes now. It's also being able to sit with the parent or parents, to be able to grieve with them, to have an opportunity to make memories, because there aren't going to be any more memories after this.
So there's this foundation worldwide, Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. I don't know if you've heard about them. It's a group of professional photographers who voluntarily offer their time, and they do this with no cost, where they would come and take portrait photos of the baby, of the family. And that is such a noble cause to get involved in.
Yes.
Because as you say, there are no memories. You have to create memories in order to have something that you, sometimes you have to erase bad memories with a little something good.
Yeah. And then clearly, you know, a memorial service leading on from that would also be something to hold on to, something to create as memories, but also to recognize that this little body really was a human for you. It really was important.
It's
And
all about, yes,
yes,
it's all about validation. And the
yes,
ceremony or the ritual it has a decidedly positive effect on parents when they are comforted by family and friends. That's so important in order to heal, to have that final send off.
yes. Let's go for another break. After the break, we're going to hear about education then for nursing staff, education for doctors, education for our healthcare professionals, but also for the public. Did any of you know that there is a choice, that there is law that allows you to choose? But let's go for a break.
The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is a professional development center for professionals who aim to improve their professional standing. This means that the learning programs we run are more than just academic programs. They are work-based programs that focus on leveraging your current experience as a professional to build your overall profile. A year down the line, the Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is developing into a preferred center for professional development in Pretoria, with 8 professional development faculties including accounting, teaching, entrepreneurship, as well as IT and many more. For more information, go to acwbl.org or dial +27 12 751 7608. The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning, where work is learning.
Welcome back. You're listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen QVIST. My guest today is Sonja Smith, the founder and CEO of Sonja Smith Funeral Group. They have got many branches in Gauteng and also in Southern Cape, I think it is. Yes, Southern Cape area. Please be aware that there is a trigger warning on the show. We are talking about stillbirth and miscarriage. You can find it disturbing and upsetting, but please also do maybe listen because it can help you heal. And also going forward, we're wanting to educate people, healthcare professionals, and also the public that there is a choice, that you have rights. And Sonja has spent lots and lots of years fighting in constitutional courts and courts in our country, in our legal system, to be able to understand what happens pre-26 weeks. Your stillborn fetus is classed as medical waste, and after 26 weeks, it is then a baby and has a death certificate that is issued. So what can we do about education?
I know that from the government side, they are busy with a task team, but that was pre-election that they implemented the task team. It was all about women's health and advocating for perinatal counseling. But since the election, nothing came forward. So I think it's important at hospitals to do training sessions, to teach to inform the hospital staff, that the nursing professionals, about this important court case, and that they should be able to offer the parents the choice. This is what I wanted to say earlier. You are at the mercy of the medical professionals in front of you. The one person might say 600 grams viable. The other person might say, well, the law says incorrectly. The law is interpreted incorrectly, that you do not have the choice. The other person will say, oh, I think the doctor will sign because they understand. But there is absolutely no consistency. So it needs to filter through so that policies can change.
Yes. And very clear as well in what you said is that it's not viability. It's not like I have a 600 gram or a 500 gram little piece of baby, of fetus. That's not the deciding factor. It's
Yes.
what you choose is the deciding factor. Not, you can't say, oh, well, this baby wasn't viable anyway.
I think one of the things that play a big role is that feeling of I did what I could, because
Yes.
it was so out of your hands. You were so out of control. Most of the times a miscarriage is unexpected. It's quick. And yeah, what I also learned in my years was, and we did workshops about that at hospitals, is to remove the mother from the maternity ward when she goes in for an induction. Because in the past, I think it has since changed, but you would be admitted the day before, and you would hear the Doppler instrument in the room next door. And on your side, tomorrow I have to go and I have to give birth naturally to a dead baby, because apparently I understand it's part of the process. You have to go through this pain. But imagine giving birth to a dead fetus. Imagine that. It's not like a cesarean. You would know,
Yeah.
you know?
And then also as well, to put you in a ward, not with, as you said, grandparents and yay, congratulations, and, blue teddy bears and pink balloons, and yeah, to put you more into a space that, because you haven't reached the stage of being able to celebrate your short, the short life that your baby's had. You're still in acute grief.
Yes, and then what I also do at these training sessions is talk about these cliches. We often say something to make us feel better, and then we say the wrong things, like, at least you're still young, you can easily fall pregnant again, or luckily you have 3 other children, or it's for the better, the baby would have been deformed anyway. We don't think, it's just a cliche. So we
Yes.
teach people what to say and what not to say when they are faced with these challenges.
Yeah, I personally have lived through that, as a child at 14. My mom fell pregnant and she miscarried at 16, 17 weeks. And there people automatically at 34 told her she was too old. Or, oh, come on now, you were too old anyway to have a baby. So, or you've already got 2 children, so it's fine. Come on now, And there I can see as well that it becomes very much disenfranchised grief, where she had no one to grieve with her, no one to understand, no one to comfort her. No funeral, no memorial service, but it doesn't mean that it left her life. It stayed with her forever.
We must be careful not to minimize the loss by
Yes.
saying at least this or at
Oh,
least that.
come on now, or clearly this wasn't meant anyway. She had a failed IUD. So and then people say, oh, well, clearly it wasn't meant anyway, and for her, it was meant. It was that she was waiting every single second for this little baby.
And we must also be very sensitive towards cultures and religion.
Yes.
You can't say it was God's will.
No. Yeah. And you know what also as well is, I think even in an accident or when people say, oh, well, this was clearly God's will, kind of story. God doesn't run around killing little babies or small children.
I think what's also important, Colleen, is the perinatal side of things, because people will come and say, oh, it's already been 3 months. Why are you still crying? But it's only been 3 months.
Yes.
So we must realize that after 3 months, everybody else carried on with their lives, and you are sitting with this inner pain, and you never ever get over the death of a child, irrespective of if it was 14 weeks or 40 weeks. You just learn to live with that hole in your heart.
Or 40 years, you never get over the death of a child. Yes. And so I think as well as we also know that as we integrate grief into our lives, you find a space for grief, but it doesn't ever go away. It doesn't get less. Grief finds a space to be in your life where before there is no space. It finds a space, but it's never going away.
No, and it's not really a process. I have a lot of respect for the theory, the grief process, but a process is almost like sitting back, waiting for these things to happen to you, these emotions, And it doesn't happen in that sequence either.
Yeah.
So I'm really more towards grief tasks where you have to physically work through the grief in order to heal and to
Yeah.
go on with your life.
Yes. And so, linear, it's not linear, it's not neat, it's not tick the block. It's like, okay, now we've done this, we've done that stage, we've done that stage, now we're done. It's nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not linear. Yes. Okay, so how can people reach you if they would like to organize a workshop? I'm very adamant now. Every hospital is going to have a workshop.
I'm willing to give my personal number as well. It's 082
082
253
253.
8078.
Okay.
Repeat that, 082 253 8078, or Sonja at SSFG. It's Sierra Foxtrot Golf.co.za. Sonja Smith Funeral Group. We have a Facebook. We do a lot of blogs on our website. People they're welcome to send me a mail, contact me, and we can arrange for these workshops. It's so important.
Yes. Do you also request volunteers to step up and come help you with this kind of process?
Until now, no.
Okay.
No, it's very sensitive.
Yes.
No, not up to now, no.
Okay. All right. So it is good to know. Please be aware that there is law in South Africa. There is law that says that you may choose if your fetus is miscarried, if your child, not just a fetus, we don't think of it as being a fetus, if your baby miscarries, you have the right to choose to have a funeral. You have the right to choose to take the little body with you.
I think, Colleen, doctors play a big role here. And until now, it's grey because
Yes.
of policies and red tape. So it's really, it's so urgent to make work of this, to get the paperwork sorted so that we have guidelines how to manage births before 26 weeks.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
And also to bring in staff need to learn how to have empathy, and that you might go through 10 miscarriages in a day in your ward. We don't know what's happening in your ward. You may have seen hundreds of thousands of them in your career, but please understand that the lady in front of you is experiencing her first one, and it's of her child. And so to please have empathy and to understand what she's going through. Yes. Okay, would you like to give your cell phone number one more time?
It's 082 253 8078.
Okay. All right, Sonja, thank you very much. Oh, and to remind people as well, Sonja is spelled with a J and not a Y. Okay, otherwise your email is going to bounce. Yes. Thank you for coming to speak to us about a very serious, but a very sad and a very necessary topic.
Thank you, Colleen. It remains a baby with a heartbeat, irrespective.
Thank you. So to all of you, you've been listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen QVIST. Please remember that you're loved, you matter, and you're not alone. I'll see you all next week.
The home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What do you say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuga Online, your inspiration radio station.